Go ahead. Hello, everybody. I am calling this Monday, August 19th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mancasari 6th School Board to order. The time is 6:03. Roll call, please.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Present.
Jim Hunter.
Present.
Craig Finale.
Present.
Rachel McWhorter. Present. Victor Figueroa.
Here.
All right. Would everybody rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Alrighty. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. We have pretty low in-person attendance, so I'm not going to go through all of the, just in the essence of time, all of the particulars. Meeting of the Board of Education and public rather than a meeting with public. 2 times for public participation at the beginning of the meeting to hear comments regarding specific agenda items, and second at the end of the meeting when comments related to school issues can be heard. And there is a sign-up sheet for that. Let's see. All right, so we're just going to jump right into business today.
I move we approve the agenda with the removal of action item L from the agenda. I second that.
Other public question?
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Jim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
Aye.
Madam President, I also have one other change for the agenda, please. To strike C under board reports linkage for Victor, please.
All right. Any discussion? Other public question?
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Jim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Rachel.
Excellent. Motion carries. Okay, looking at the agenda or the minutes from our June 17th, 2024 regular meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of our June 17th, 2024 regular meeting as written.
And do we have a second?
We second that.
Is there any discussion? Third call the question.
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Jim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. All right. Moving on, we have no public participation this evening. I want to just remind everybody, normally we would have the District Accountability Committee here or a representative of such. But I am also reminding you all that the school board has been invited to the first District Accountability meeting, which is going to be held on September 10th here in this same room. We are invited towards the latter half of the evening for kind of a just get to know each other type exercise at 5:45 on September 10th. If anybody can be present, that would be tremendous. New DAC members, any parents or community members, anybody who is wanting to have a voice as well as some of the insider, if you will, or governance type of information in regard to accountability for the school system. The meetings start at 5:15 and everybody is welcome to come join. And Todd, those are typically on the second Tuesday?
It'll be on the second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday of every
At
month
5:15.
at 5:15 here in the boardroom at the high school.
It's a lot of hot meetings,
5:45
5:45.
to 6:15, right? So they're going to do their first meeting at 5:15 to 5:45 just to kind of get things settled. And then they've asked us to join them at 5:45 to 6:15. So they're taking their last half an hour on that first initial startup. I believe there's a few people coming back, returning,
Yes.
so it'll be some familiar faces. Just good to always have a conversation.
Backtrack the street. What time are the student interviews?
Student interviews for our student voice will be on September 11th,
Right.
and they will be at 4 o'clock. Right? Did we decide 4 o'clock or 4 p.m.? So right as the students get out of school.
Yeah, just.
Yep, we'll talk a little bit more about that here. All right, so we're going to jump right into board reports, and with that, for both LRC as well as CASB, Mr. Figueroa, if you would like to jump right in, that would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
things are just starting up. So I just have a few announcements as it relates to upcoming updates, upcoming dates that we want to be aware of. Many of these I've expressed before, but the Boardmanship Academy, I think I sent out an email this week and a couple of times during June, and I just want to know, Heather just needs to know who is going to be able to attend. I know Rachel can. I'll be out of town that weekend, so I can't attend. If there's anybody else that can attend, please just let Heather know.
It's over in Durango.
It is
Fort Lewis.
at FLC.
I am planning on attending, Heather.
Okay.
And she's going to register.
Okay, I'll try, but I don't know.
So
It's from
that's
10 to 2:30, so it's 4.5 hours. I'm pretty sure they'll serve you lunch.
great.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah. And so it's September 28th at FLC Fort Lewis College. It's at the Student Center. And yeah, I don't know what they're doing about the parking. There's always a parking deal over there where you have to either pay or have some sort of slip. Sometimes you pass. Sometimes. So
The registration might have something.
I'm wondering if I think I'll just email and see if I can get an answer around whether there's going to be any kind of parking pass.
Okay.
And then just a reminder, and I know we registered already, the 84th annual convention. It's at the Board Hall. It's December 5th through the 7th. I think we have registered for that already, and I think that we also have tentatively put 2 rooms aside for students to possibly come to that. You're kind of shaking your head.
We haven't gotten the rooms yet for the students,
Oh, for the
but there should
students,
be, did we register for 4 students by chance?
I don't have any names.
We don't have.
We won't have names.
I don't.
Yeah, so you'll just have to register under Susie Smith, John Brown. Susie Smith, John Brown. There you go. There's 4 names and you change names.
Yeah. Thank you.
And just as an update to that, we have started working on a little bit of, Todd and I initially, just some written guideline around that so that it can be present for the students with the student board voice, as well as moving forward into other students that are potentially selected. So that should carry forth, and that will become to make it easier on Heather and others, like, just that's an annual happening, and that's what we do. So we'll make it easier.
Sounds great. Calling Casby's report also, just a heads up, on Thursday, August 15th, so that's already passed. There's board president cafes, so really anybody can go to that, but not really your president. So it's just monthly topics around board president work. And on Tuesday, the 20th, they have the rural board member roundtable. That's every month they have that. So if you log in to your Casby account, you'll see these different meetings. I go to the board roundtable periodically. I've gone the last 2 years, but sometimes the topics aren't the greatest and the discussions aren't the greatest. So sometimes I just, if I'm doing something, I might not. And then lastly, LLC update, Friday, September 6th, and this is more for me. They have the delegate assembly, all the resolutions that have been submitted to CASB. We're going to review them as a board and give our feedback about whether these resolutions should be what should change and then possible, or whether they're really solid and they're good and we want to move them forward. Those recommendations go to the CASB board and then eventually to the body as a whole. We'll be discussing in October in prep. And just so everybody knows, there's still time. August 29th is the last day to submit any resolutions. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, any comments or questions or? Okay, Mrs. McWhorter, the floor is yours for our BOCES report.
All right, so BOCES kind of took a break over this summer, so we had our first meeting back just last week. Couple things that Todd and I will get into a little bit later with Cortez, so I'll talk about that later. Mostly just as far as like BOCES goes, a couple big things they talked about, a lot of it was the PD, about what they have. One of the big ones that they had is there was a full day human resources training that was on July 30th. Pretty much Pagosa, Cortez, we sent a couple, and Ignacio went to it as far as BOCES. BOCES does have a virtual consultant. Her name is Shelly Landgraf. She's from Pure HR Solutions, and she's available for any of the BOCES districts to use at no cost throughout the year. So we can call her with any questions, we can call her with anything. So technically we kind of, not necessarily a built-in HR person because she's not gonna be doing like paperwork for us, but she would be a consultant on any HR things that we may have. I know that HR is a big hole for us. I mean, it's, you know, it's something that we've been talking about for a while. So Shelly Landgraf, through Pure HR Solutions, but that's through, she's contracted through BOCES for some training. And then a couple other things, basically, BOCES has a couple grants that we also have, you know, the SR grant, there's a, I think so, are we, I think the timeline's just about the same. Yeah. And then as far as like the ESS side of things, also some other big PDs coming up. September 19th and 20th is a legally defensible IEP class. And then on the November 1st is how to make MTSS a verb, and then ESS Teacher Institute on February 7th. That's the main one that Brandy was talking about. I think she would like our teachers really to think about going to. So February, I know it's a long ways off. So February 7th is a good one for all the teachers to kind of come together and get some training. Some of the big work that the ESS side's doing, they have their Special Education Advisory Committee. They're bringing that back. I guess it used to be a fairly robust group, so it's going strong now again. They have the Behavior Coach Specialist. They support IEP teams for referrals for the high needs behavior, professional development, and developmental functions. And then the Instructional Coach, which is Tom Van Versrick. He supports, he's a BOCES employee, and they've kind of reassigned his role. So he's not taking as much of a caseload, but he's really going in to help support the new special education teachers across the BOCES districts, all 8 districts. Because there's just been such high turnover with the special education teachers and departments. So he's going to kind of take over this instructional coach position to provide, you know, tailored professional development for a lot of these new special ed teachers. So that's a lot of the PD and things coming up within BOCES. We're in the process of doing working on a strategic plan for BOCES. That's one of our big work sessions that we had over the summer. BOCES doesn't really have a strategic plan. They have some big goals, but they never really had a plan. So we're in the process of putting one of those together with PEBC, I think, is a company out of Denver. So working with that. And yeah, we're looking at setting some goals and getting some stuff moving forward. Like I said, later on in the meeting, Todd and I will have a discussion around the districts. Perfect.
One thing if I could add too, so for that training that Shelley Landgraf did, we had Tiffany, Christy, and myself did a half day with Shelley Landgraf on the 30th, and then in the afternoon, all the department directors that have employees receive that HR training from her also.
Nice.
Was it good?
That's not helpful.
Very. We learned a lot.
Too much.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Too
We're
much?
like, oh,
Walked out of there afraid?
yeah,
Yeah, welcome to HR.
yeah. We're like, oh, boy.
There's a lot of laws.
There's a lot.
And they're growing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're delicate because it's
Really
people.
helpful.
Well, good. All right, Mr. Benally, I think, is there any questions before I move on about policies yet? The discussion. Mr. Benally, I know you had something to relay in regard to Make Us United.
But yeah, this is gonna be a brief little update. We just had a meeting, it's supposed to be a board retreat, but we didn't have enough people. So we ended up, having our business part of the meeting, happen by Zoom. It was, pretty interesting. Just doing that whole Zoom setup, it's a good thing I had the problem, so set everything up. So some changes that we came up with, first and foremost, number one is recognition of Tim Hunter being officially done with the XU United for now because he's
Turned out in September.
yeah. So they had the official send off for him, but chances are he'll be back.
I was gonna say, he's already, you're in NPR, it's not like you're far.
Yeah. So there's that change in some of our leadership. Lisa Stone is being moved to the president's role. And Dodie is changing her direction to be support her as the secretary for HR side.
Secretary of the board.
Yeah. Apparently there's a lot that they're having to wade through that she needs to do. She's tag teaming with, is it Katie?
Yeah,
Yeah, Katie Calvert, to wade through all the things they gotta get through. What else? That was pretty much it. We got a good report from the executive director from the other Katie. About how things went for the summer. Summer programs went really well. They had really great attendance. They're waiting to see what kind of graphics they can get from Seth as far as like the outcomes of participants and their first quarter at school. So we'll be looking for that information pretty soon. Still working on getting adequate funding, but they're looking very very positive. Have some good things coming. So working along with policy and procedure, governance, fund development. Those are all things that we're constantly being looked at and being strengthened. Summer Hub was a big deal for them. They did a lot of field trips throughout the area. They went to Night Horse. They went to hiking for some hiking. Did some stuff at the pool. And they just had so much great staffing for all the programs. Ways to improve it. Potentially creating a tiered pay structure for participants next summer. And it's kind of a voluntary kind of deal where like if you can pay, please pay. But that's all contingent on what kind of funding we're expecting. So that's going to be it in a nutshell. Unless you guys have feedback.
It's the summer help is the big deal. Really well.
Well, they showed a video, or they tried to show a video. We saw the images, but didn't hear the sound. But, it's available on the website. It's kind of just an artificial wrap up of the summer. And it's really pretty cool, actually. It's seen it previous to the meeting, so it's worth a look.
Was that what they put on Facebook?
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah.
It's cute.
And it's my understanding that now the conversation shifts into, okay, Summer Hub was funded for 2 years. Now we have to start talking about funding for next summer and the summer after.
Right.
How is that gonna come about, along with fundraising for, Campus United does a lot of basic needs type expectation. And there is what is the kickoff fundraiser, September 28th, I believe, right?
Yes,
I did meet with Katie as well to try to assist or help with some fundraising, and it looks like we're gonna be doing some fun things that are all kind of in association and partnership, because it's that day is Grand Summer Nights, so it's a big day for the community as a whole, as well as the Grange doing a big event. And so we're hoping that we can, I'm hoping to help in partnering everybody together. I mean, it is make us united to unite this community. And so I wanted to just like kind of put a pin or make a suggestion that the community try and support that group, because they are supporting our students during the summers. And we did not have anything for kids in the summers prior to the last 2 summers. We had nothing. It's up to families.
yeah, so on September 28th is the kickoff for their annual fundraising activities. And this is the first year they've done this. So they'll run from September 28th through December 31st. And all set, it'll be a campaign to try to raise about $70,000.
So they need to raise 70 grand.
The cost for the whole summer program.
Yeah, well, it's not just that, they're, you know, as with all nonprofits, fiscally, grants come, grants go, and it's a struggle sometimes. And you have a limited, a lot of nonprofits in the area, and it's, again, their finances are a finite resource. So,
I think as it really ties to the school, it's really important to note that summer piece. And one thing that the board has asked for, and hopefully we can bring it back to light, is the tie in the test scores and the learning that the kids that are able to go to Summer Hub might benefit from, because there's no drop off. They go from school through a hub program where they're still learning and engaging in activity, and then back into school. So that dip is less, and we're hoping to put some data behind that. And I'm assuming that Campus United would share that, but we are looking for it. We've asked for it as well. Very exciting stuff. Be proud of our community for doing that, because it certainly is a heavy lift all around. It's not just 2 or 3 people, it's a community of people. Okay, with that, it looks like we're moving on to our superintendent report for the evening. Woohoo, we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah. So for the superintendent report, last Monday was the start of school. We're off to a very strong start, and I think that I've outlined a few reasons why I believe we're off to such a smooth and strong start. It starts with our returning staff and our new staff. They are just really blessed to have high caliber people in our district, and it's really made a difference as we started the school year. In addition, there's an additional energy with kind of a renewed focus on academics after the last 3 years of really focusing on wellness. Now that we have wellness system in place and operational, it's time for us to really deliver for our kids and our families on academics as well. And that's brought a lot of good energy into the school this last week and a half. Also, the fact that we have the revisions to the strategic plan that we shared, the goals for this current year, the portrait of the school district, and the standard operating procedure, all that brings clarity to what the school district is trying to accomplish and will accomplish through the efforts of our staff. And I think that allows for a sense of purpose, and also has allowed for an excellent start to the year. We've seen a really smooth this transition for kids' behavior from the summer to the beginning of school. The deans are reporting that so far the students are doing really well. It's been the smoothest start for the kids. And overall, when I was talking to the admin team about why we sort of thought, why we're seeing this positivity in our hallways, and part of what we talked about during the admin meeting was some thorough spring planning that took place, and also the fact that we didn't have new initiatives or fewer new initiatives. So it made for a fast and easy start as we continue to build momentum on the things that we've said have been important. So I'm really pleased that we're off to such a strong start. It's been really good. We've there's a few hiccups, but it's been really terrific. As far as where we are for student count, we built our budget on 486 students, and that's where we are as of today. We'll probably have some fluctuations up and down, but what we've seen historically over the last 3 years, that the fluctuations haven't amounted to much. So I think we're in good shape with our budget. So, the first thing is we worry about not hitting our number, but it looks like we're going to. We've seen a slow and steady increase in our enrollment over the last 3 years that has brought about $640,000 of new dollars into our annual budget. Another thing that we launched this year is a learning management platform that's called Vector LMS. It's from our SIDSIP partner. SIDSIP is the Colorado Self-Insurance Pool, and it's allowed us to provide free training to our staff, like mandatory reporting, and it also provides training for our departments, our department directors, as well as the department employees, to try to better manage our insurance premiums. As a school district, we pay over $100,000 a year in insurance premiums.
Wow.
And so the more we can do to educate our staff and provide training, the better opportunity we'll have to be candidates for lower premiums. I just wanted to remind the Board of Education that on September 9th in the historic gym will be picture day. So this will be the opportunity for the Board of Education to please show up and get your picture between 8 and 12:30. And we can use those pictures for newsletters, the websites, and other things. So I highly encourage the board to show up for that. And then as far as just some activities I'll be involved with, I'll be attending a regional superintendent meeting on September 4th for all the regional superintendents. And then on this Wednesday, I'm meeting with the county superintendents to talk about county issues as far as it relates to our school districts. Madam President, that's my report. Are there any questions?
The regional superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
does that include multiple counties? Can you expand on that, please?
Yes, so that is the one it follows really the framework led by BOCES, their service area. So it's Burgosa, Bayfield, Ignacio, us, Dove Creek, Dolores, Cortez, and we invite Durango, even though they're not part of the San Juan BOCES. And Silverton too, thank you. Oh, that's pretty terrible to forget Silverton. But that's the group, so it's about 9 of us.
And when is that again?
That's on September 4th. And you'll be in Durango from 8 to 11. And that's a monthly meeting that I attend.
Does Durango attend?
Yes, they've been great. They, with Dr. Chesser and her role there, Durango's been very supportive of the region. And she's a great thought partner for all the other superintendents.
Excellent. How has the beginning of the school year receiving of new employees gone? I know we've got some new employees across the district. Can you give us a little bit of a vision into that?
Well, so far, I would say it's a little bit of, I'd say it's been good or fair, but not great. As a school district, we had, we had an onboarding for, as it related to the strategic plan and some human resource and finance things. And then we had that full day of professional development, which allowed the new employees to really understand the district and the board. And that was good, but there's a lot more to be done. As a school, the whole process of onboarding is part of what we learned from that human resource training that we received on September 30th from Shelley Landgraf. And she provided us with a framework called the 5 C's. And so we initiated a conversation just today with our school leaders and our department leaders on a formal onboarding process.
Good.
And that formal onboarding meeting will be in October, where we hope to provide our students with, our new staff with an onboarding handbook. And what we created last week and today was really the table of contents for that handbook. And so that was shared out with school leaders and department directors today. But it's, in that sense, it's a little bit behind the curve, but it's positive work in the right direction as we really shore up, the onboarding process.
And then once it's in place, you can earlier put it into place on the years moving forward.
Yeah, and
It's just the work really being done.
exactly. And that handbook will reside on the website.
Okay.
And so it'll allow for kind of continuous activity. We'll build it into that onboarding day where we have the whole staff.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's good work in the right direction, but not quite there yet.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Berger? All right. Mrs. Miller, this is manager report.
Well, first meeting is coming Monday. So I'm trying to get our audit done. Just in case there's anything, but I'm anxious to get it over. So just been prepping for that. Takes a lot of work to get ready for that. So really that's it. I don't really have anything moving forward because we're still trying to close out this year. So he hopefully should be able to be here September to go over the audit findings. I would imagine that would happen. Because he should be done by out of my office by the end of next week, and then he does a little bit more on his end, and then close that out. So really, that's all I have because I don't really have anything until that's completed. But as far as this fiscal year 25, things are on track. We've been spending quite a bit of money at the beginning because all the supplies and just the renewal of all the licenses, so there's been quite a bit of money going out. But that's how that works at the beginning of the year.
The end of the year is super scary, and we try to tighten things up, and then the beginning of the year is super
Right.
scary too.
Oh.
As we approve all these expenditures and
And no money's coming in, so you're like,
Yeah.
oh. And so I've just kind of been trying to time things to where I'm not having to pull out of savings, so I'm just trying to tell you, like you said, your car, since it bills $124,000, and so they're,
Yeah.
it's expensive. Expensive beginning of the year, but we're on track, so there's nothing to be alarmed by. The one thing I did want to mention is with that fire system, what's it called, the fire alarm
Yeah.
system. Working with the insurance company, I believe we're gonna be covered. I think we will see a $5,000 deductible that we'll have to pay. But that's gonna be good, because I think it's gonna be anywhere in the $25,000 range to fix everything that's, because it was a surge. So they're saying that it's covered from the lightning surge. So that part I think is good news. Obviously.
Screw it back and putting some surge protection on your unit.
Well, see, I don't know anything about any of that. Destri's working with them, and so we'll see where that goes.
I think that would just be a standard.
That you would have thought so, yeah.
Can we ask that? So,
Yeah,
because
she's,
the real
she already
question
did,
is that-
I just don't know what day, I mean, I'm sure it's
Okay.
gonna happen, because they were actually surprised that it wasnwasn't there. So, I have nothing. Yeah. But the good news is, I mean, we'll be out $5,000 instead of $25,000, so that will be more.
So will that come out of contingency? So how's that?
No, I mean, I'll just pay it, out of a regular line item that we have, and then when I trip the budget in January, I will just move money around and somehow absorb it and make it fit, to where we don't have to dive into any kind of.
Besides that, because the last time we talked, the budget was pretty tight. Other things that you want, expecting something based on what we talked about last June.
Is there any, say that again, is there
Is
any?
there any other items that are coming up?
Oh, that
bubbling
were-
to the
that were
top
not budgeted.
besides, yeah, that was, that's.
Track and back to school.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had
it was
quite a bit of maintenance things that have been kind of neglected over the years that have really needed to be handled right away. So Destry's been taking care of a lot of things that it should have been spaced out a little bit. So we've seen quite a bit of expenditure for the department, but that's not her fault. It's just things that we needed to take care of immediately. But you're right, the track, I'm not sure where that's gonna go.
We don't know the cost on that. but
No,
We had geotesting done. Some results of that.
And are we sure yet that other insurance will pay for that? Do we have any?
it's not covered because it's the water underneath. It has nothing to do with,
It's an act of God.
yeah, it has nothing to do with anything. So we may have to do some kind of concrete work to divert the water. I'm not sure what the solution's
We're trying to
gonna
figure out
be.
what it is, right? I mean,
And the best cost way to handle it, and Destry's working on that, so I'm not sure what our options are, but I know it's not gonna be cheap.
Yeah.
But if we don't do it, we're gonna end up with problems year after year after year.
Right.
Which doesn't work either. So she's in the progress of figuring all that out. But unfortunately, we probably should have done a few things differently when that was installed. So we're dealing with it right now.
How'd the roof stuff come out? Did those all come out, stay on budget, stay good?
Completely on
Okay.
budget. They were done so quick. I think within 3 weeks we
Yeah,
had
it was
both
good.
roofs done.
That's great.
They were a great
I
company.
didn't find any more.
Tim was a part of that.
They did a good job with it.
Good, good.
We didn't find anything crazy.
And do we have a time
Well,
frame?
there's a warranty on it. I don't know if it's a
I'm not
year.
sure what it is, but there is a warranty. Destry has that logged.
Okay.
She's got it all dialed in. So,
Good.
but there is a warranty.
Excellent.
Oh, and one other thing, you'll see that resolution in your packet, which I'm sure you all saw about the buses.
Yes.
So Bart is gonna be flying out to go get those. Well, he's gonna have to take 2 trips.
I was gonna say, there's 2 buses.
Because he can't find anybody to go, so he's gonna have to do two trips.
You mean that's certified to drive them back?
Mhm.
No bus
So he
ride?
was totally fine with it, he goes, I'm good with that, so he's made his plan reservations. and- But he goes, let me take different route, coming back each time, so it's
He's
easy.
gonna listen to 42 books on tape, it'll be fine.
So anyway, so you'll see that resolution, because I got to cut, or the check cut for him to take. And so we'll be getting those 2 new buses within the next 3 weeks
I
or
was
so.
gonna say, when is?
He
all
goes,
this
he goes
happening?
the first week of September, I believe, is when he's actually flying out to get it, the first one. And then he's gonna turn around and go immediately back out.
And do we know what the plan is to put them into use? Is there a?
Yeah, he's been thinking about that. He's weighing his pros and cons of whether one becomes a travel bus or not, to try to minimize
The wear and tear?
yes. So he's got a strategy going. He's playing chess with it.
He is.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's very thoughtful about it, so, and we may, I don't know if we'll drop a couple of buses, what we're gonna end up doing, but he's working on all of that, and so we'll see where that goes.
Excellent. At some point, we'll come before the board with an action item to get permission to dispose of really old buses that are currently just a liability for us. and then those would be sold on as a blind auction.
I would ask for one other thing, and that is that we should evaluate because this will serve us long-term, and if you're going to investigate disposal of a bus, we should investigate the proper disposal of the other items that are behind the bus barn, which there are some vehicles and things back there. Maybe we can get a salvage company to take them, maybe we can donate them, maybe we can do something with that.
I actually looked though, because when I drove back there the other day, I don't know if we have much behind the bus barn. There's a bunch behind the fire
Let's
department.
go.
There's like 2 or 3 like buses behind the fire department.
Well, if any of it's
I don't know
ours,
if we have any of it.
if it's ours,
I don't know.
I don't know. But if it's ours, I would love for us to look, at least understand and know, and maybe Bart can come in and say, I know exactly what we have, and it's this, this, and this.
Right.
But I would
Where-
love to know. Yes, there was. But I don't know whose it is, and I just would love to know that it's not ours, or if any of it is
Right,
ours,
right.
that we can get it
Yeah.
taken care of.
Fair enough, because Dasher's been doing that across campus, and I
Right.
have to give her credit. She's
I
been
know she has.
cleaning house.
She's a woman, leave it up to her. She's like, done, out, in.
She has been doing some phenomenal things, getting rid of stuff that's been piled up there for years.
That's amazing.
and years and
See if
years.
she can find our pictures.
Right, she's just been outstanding,
Class
so.
pictures.
They used to be here in the front.
Well,
We'll
they used to be in the far back office over there
We'll find them eventually.
at one
Yeah,
time.
Schools are gone to the old desks.
Yeah,
very true.
well, that's tremendous, and thank you to Bart for driving a million
know.
hours
We
to
have
do
2
that.
trips, and he did not grumble, he was like, I'll do it.
Chris might grumble, but
Yeah,
he's fine.
he's fine,
That's awesome.
yeah, so that's how that goes.
Very, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we've got some discussion items. Mr. Cordray, we wanted to present and explain and discuss our portrait of a district. If you would please lead us in that discussion to start.
Yeah, so the board has before them the portrait of a school district. And so this came about, as I was meeting with Emily at the beginning of the summer, and we're talking about how best to explain the school district, not only to the board, but to the public and to our own staff. And so the structure of it, we kind of thought about, well, what's the structure of a school district? And that was the thinking behind Portrait of a School District. And it shows that at the foundational level, we have the operations through our departments. And those would include like the business department, human resources, food service, health through nursing, information technology, transportation, safety and security, activities and athletics, facilities and maintenance, and communications. And for each of these departments, we built out a standard operating procedure manual, and that was piloted by Destry at the facilities department. And the other department directors will be delivering on their standard operating procedures with their draft by Christmas. And then the next part of the hierarchy is the wellness of our students and staff. And over the last 3 years, we've invested heavily in the wellness of our students and staff. And we built out a system for how we take care of students and staff with things like clinical counseling, restorative justice, trauma-informed, SEL curriculum, and so on. And the wellness system articulates how that operates within our school district. And then for the last 2 years, the next level in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as we go to our goal, which is really, student outcomes, is our academic system. And for the last 2 years, we've been receiving instructional coaching support as an administrative team from Fort Lewis College, Dr. Kathy Gabriel. And we built out a really solid academic system, which really articulates how we will support the classroom with our academic program. And then at the top of the pyramid, which points directly to student outcomes, is the classroom. And we know the classroom is where the miracle and the magic of learning happens. And so the 3 previous tiers support the classroom. The classroom is really where it happens. And what we measure is at the very top. That's the portrait of a graduate competencies and academic mastery. So this is simply a document which is the operational guide to meeting the fulfillment of our strategic plan. So in 2020, a really smart group of people, including our community, got together and talked about how do we build a strategic plan. And the board adopted that in 2021. And then from that point on, we've been in the race of doing the very healthy work of how do we meet those objectives. And this is the operational guide for meeting those objectives. And so this would be a part of how we do things from every department, through our wellness, through our academics, into the classroom for the good of our students. And it's a really solid framing that really came about through some very, dynamic and invigorating conversation with them.
If I can add to that, I think as an individual who is not an educator by trade, but yet have enough knowledge of education through my parents being educators and so forth, had a general understanding and idea of how a school district would function in order to positively affect growth and achievement, student outcomes, making sure we're teaching in the classroom, but more importantly, keeping the culture of our district paramount in order to find those successful outcomes and keep those people and keep them engaged and our families to understand exactly what it is we're doing and why. And when you start to talk about a strategic plan, a lot of times people kind of just glaze over because it's not fun material at all times. And it is the accountability of initiatives and goals that we as the school board and also Mr. Cordray and his administration are constantly upholding. And again, that harkens all the way back to when the strategic plan, when the very first one was written years and years ago and tabled a bit, and then brought back to life in 2020, revamped, and then has been revised or revamped 2 or 3 times since as we go year to year. And my conversation was, but Todd, how do we demonstrate to our entire community and our staff how these things all fit together? Because I kept hearing personally, well, but why trauma informed? But why this PD activity? But why athletics? And because everybody has their niche, and we all have the things we love, and we all have the things that we need to do. And this particular structure, pyramid, was an effort to demonstrate how kind of the operations of the district supports the rest of the district, the wellness, the academic instructional leadership, and then ultimately the very top tier is the classroom, the outcomes of the students. And so it really was meant to try to involve everyone into the understanding of how we all support and hold each other up in order to accomplish the goals in the strategic plan. Rather than working against each other, let's all work together because everything feeds together for the outcome. And this was the demonstration in a very black and white sense, rather than trying to explain it and convince and teach. Here's who we are. This is what we're trying to do. And I think that the demonstration does make a lot of sense. I don't, you and I kind of it just worked. It was pretty quickly actually that it all came together. But to my knowledge, you had indicated there's really not another school district that utilizes something like this or has demonstrated it in this way that you know of?
Yeah, no, I have not seen it. And so this is Mancus through and through. So this is Mancus thinking for Mancus. And that's right down to the design of the pyramid was done by Tara Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so she did that great work. And what's in it is the reflection of what we built for us, for our kids' outcome. if anyone's interested in getting a copy, like I said, this is the operational guide. This isn't the governance document, this is the operational document. So if someone wants to see it, I do have copies available in my office that I'm happy to check out to them. And of course, this is, what's important is a core principle of Make It School District is continuous improvement. So I'm really excited to see what this is gonna look like in December and then again in May, because, you know, we have such strong, smart people making these systems more and more efficient every day. So I think we're just in a place where we're building on success and we're gonna see some really strong improvements in the next few years.
But it's also a really amazing demonstration of where we're already at.
It is.
I mean, there are, in this particular document, there are deep dives into, this is when we collect our data, this is when we share our data. These are all the resources we have for our children, our families. It is pretty rich in content,
Yes.
just as a, here's what we're all about, and all of these pieces are what strive to make that strategic plan actually hit on all marks year after year after year. So it will fluctuate, but it really truly is the portrait of who we are as a school district and how we are all working together. So I'm pretty proud of this. This is pretty cool work. And I hope that it helps people overall just have a much better understanding of what we're doing. It's hard to explain, even when in public, when someone says, well, what's 4B? And you're like, oh my gosh. So even as a school board member who's closer to it, it's still hard to explain at times. So that's what it was for.
So we're going to cast and talk on both districts.
At some point.
Yeah, maybe.
The call for that was April and May, so we didn't get it this year, but maybe next.
All right, so moving on to not a fun conversation, but we need another, we would like to have, I think, a discussion around the update with the on Zoom School District and the AU notice. So, Mr. Cordray.
Okay. About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Montezuma Cortez School District or school called a special meeting for their school board. And during that meeting, they all voted unanimously to reapply to become their own AU. Basically to no longer be part of BOCES. Couple things, just numbers and stats wise. Cortez is about 1/3 of the population of our San Juan BOCES, of all 8 districts. They're about 1/3 of the population. And their IEP numbers reflect that as well. It's about 1/3 of the IEPs. They did attempt this last year. CDE denied their request. They had to basically prove 2 things. They had to prove that they did have the capacity to serve their students themselves and become their own AU, and they also had to prove that by them withdrawing, it would not hurt the rest of San Juan BOCES. CDE said that yes, they did prove that they could be their own AU, but by them leaving, it would detrimentally hurt our San Juan BOCES. So they were denied. They appealed. Lots of documents were requested from both them and from BOCES, and at the end, CDE upheld their decision. So Cortez is still within BOCES for this year. So now they have decided to reapply again this year. I don't know of anything being different as far as their application. Like I don't see the facts being any different. It would be a humongous hit to BOCES. As far as being on the BOCES board, right now, going into the beginning of the year, even if Cortez were to be able to leave BOCES, it does not affect this school year. It would take an effect next year. So right now, as far as BOCES is considered, their staffing, they're all just focused on this year, on our kids, on doing what they need to do for this year. There hasn't been much discussion around the what if. I'm kind of a little freaking out because I would kind of like to know, what does that look like? If they were to leave, where does that leave us? But I'm also a planner. I want to have like three different lanes, so that way when we go, I know where we're going. But Todd and I talked about this. We kind of wanted to bring this up to see which direction or like what you guys are thinking, where you kind of want to help me discuss things in the BOCES meetings. My first couple of meetings, I kind of felt like I needed to just learn a little bit, and now I kind of feel like I should have a little bit more say, but I want to know where this board wants to help guide that discussion, because we're going to have some big discussions over the next little bit. Go ahead, Todd, and then we'll open up to everybody.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would share or add to that is, so last year, Montezuma Cortez School District, went through the process and, were denied. I think that was probably a learning experience for them. So I think as they go through the process again, they'll make adjustments to their application and they'll know where to apply additional resources to fortify their application. And so we don't know what CDE will consider, but I have a feeling that they will learn a lot and their application will be a lot stronger. So, the board of the San Juan BOCES is made up of all the member district board members. So Mancos represents, 1/8%, so 12.5% of that board is us. And then we just have to decide, give Rachel the direction, do we want Montezuma Cortez in that collaboration or not? And if they're not in, what's that mean to us? And if they are in, what does that mean to us? And really, it's that latter question we already know because we have historical precedent, but the initial question we don't know the answer to. And that's exactly what Rachel's trying to push them to do, is that thinking and that planning around if the BOCES were to shrink from 7,500 kids to 5,000 kids that receive services, what would that mean? And, to that budget, to that staffing, and mostly because all of BOCES revenue comes from the member districts. So they have to run a balanced budget, and their budget comes from the 8 member districts. So if Cortez is not a member, we know their budget would go down, but we also know that Cortez also pays the highest portion of that budget also. So I think that's all in all a very good question.
My biggest concern is the application of all the staff
Right.
to Cortez, if BOCES, if they were able to go in with BOCES. How many existing BOCES staff are going to get hired out by Cortez? Well, where's that going to leave the staff in the BOCES? That's my biggest concern.
And that's what we raised last year as a school district. Mancos School District really raised 2 questions. One is the amount of people qualified for those SSPs, specialized service providers, is really narrow. It's a select group. And to have 2 entities competing for them as opposed to 1 is just going to really affect the supply and demand even more and make it more difficult. So as a Mancos School District, that was one of our 2 major concerns. The other major concern that we raised last year with CDE was, what does that mean if the parents in Montezuma Cortez School District are dissatisfied and a lot of those students want to come to Mancos? And how do what's our position and authority to accept them in a way that we can maintain what our our delivery system here. So, and that was an unknown question, so it was more or less a hypothetical question, but it was a concern because we didn't know the answer for it. So that's what we raised to CDE last year, and I think kind of pressing concerns
Well,
as we look at this year.
that hasn't changed much. We were still in that
Right.
exact same position,
Oh, exactly.
right? And to your point, Tim, if those employees that are employed through BOCES then become employed through Montezuma School District, then they have to continue employment through one or the other. That will adjust those budgets down when employees slide out. My concern is, will we have the right type of employees at the right levels to serve all the needs? Will there be enough occupational therapists, speech language therapists, whatever it might be where BOCES is providing? Or are there enough is there enough skill to go around, even with the loss or the transfer, if they were to leave BOCES? I don't even know if we have that much skilled labor in the area.
So, well, right now,
Is that?
you know, when Durango split, you can probably talk more
Right.
about this. I know that, you know, that was the big concern too. Durango
Right.
was the big one, and they took, so like right now, for BOCES staff, they do subcontract some of those very specialized individuals from Durango if they need some, like say Ignacio has one very specific case that they need just a few hours, but it's just for one person,
They'll
that
pull it
they
out.
could subcontract that from Durango.
Okay.
So there is a potential for that. I mean, I know that the big question floating around the BOCES boardroom, or well, we had a meeting with the whole staff or the leadership team, was is there going to be enough people that want to go to Cortez? Are they going to be able to staff that to begin with to go ahead and serve their kids? And then, as Todd's point, are a lot of those families going to then jump districts? And if they do, then what does that look like? Because basically, for funding, I'm a the numbers nerd. So the funding issue, we get our count in October, okay, and that is our state funded money, and we get those to the school districts. And then by December, that's when we have to have our IEP count finalized. And then that count is what goes to, basically that's the federal money that comes in, and that is consistently underfunded. It's about half of what it should be. So that money, we actually never see. That money goes straight to BOCES. So that IEP, like count money, that goes to BOCES. And then there's a cost sharing of kind of the rest of BOCES, and they call it, what is that we pay out?
Oh,
The rest.
you mean our portion that we pay?
So our membership.
$250,000 that we pay
BOCES
BOCES to
for their
buy
services.
Yeah,
service.
it's just our membership.
It's our membership
So-
fees for their services provided to the district.
Right, and so that comes off, and basically, so for that, 30% of that, amount is split between the districts evenly. So we pay the exact same as Silverton and Cortez and everybody else, and then the other 70% of that is paid based on our population. And so Mangus pays a little bit less because we don't have as many kids. That's when Cortez is paying more. Bayville pays more, Fregosa pays more, Duck Creek pays less. So as far as money and budget wise, obviously they wouldn't have the caseload to Cortez, but they also wouldn't have that influx of money, and we would then have to split between 7 districts instead of split between 8. So I have no idea what the number is going to be. They gave us a number last year. I have no idea how accurate that was. We have an absolutely new controller for BOCES. He's working on some numbers, but they haven't really put anything out there yet. I would imagine we're looking at an additional $50,000 to $75,000. It's kind of where they were last year if Cortez were to leave. But at the same time, you also have to look at, as far as BOCES, is it a positive working environment for people? Like, are our service providers coming from Cortez and they're all burnt out and they're all grumpy? Like, are we getting the, how is having Cortez in our BOCES helping other than monetary? I mean, is this something we want to do? Or do we want to let them fly on their own and we just cut the budget and figure out what we can do as much as we can?
So everything that everybody said are good questions. In all honesty, there should be working groups in OCs on these questions, both from a superintendent committee group to your group that's representing. And so when we talk about how much money, if Cortez is to leave, how much money, additional money besides what we pay right now, is it gonna be, that number should be given to you pretty accurately from the perspective of just pure numbers.
Right.
As far as the question that you have, what are we gonna do if we have to start competing for expertise? Those again are questions that they're gonna ask. For example, they're gonna ask Cortez and say, and Cortez is gonna say, we'll be glad to hand out contract with other districts that need services. That's gonna be on their contract, that's gonna be on their application, guaranteed. And they will talk with all the superintendents and say, look, I think if we can make this work. All I'm saying is that right now, we're asking a lot of questions. Those questions need to be answered. OCs is the main person group that needs to be able to come back to you as a committee, to the superintendents, and say, here's what those questions look like. There shouldn't be a situation where we don't have answers to those questions. So my advice to you is, let's give you all the questions, superintendent as well, and then let's hand them to BOCES and say, before we get to a point where CDE has to answer this, let's get the answers to these questions. And then that's where each district says, this really isn't gonna work for us because we can't survive if they leave, or we're so impacted that, or we figured out a way for this to work. It's not the best scenario, but if they want to leave, then, you know, whatever.
I mean, the two main questions that we've been discussing are financial impact and service impact, quality of service impact. Those are the two main questions. One way or the other, do you survive or not survive? And then can you serve or not serve? And how well can you serve? My concern, you know, based on those answers, it's a domino effect, right? If one falls, do the rest fall? Or, you know, are we paying $250,000 as our membership, plus giving up those funds for services that either do not meet our needs or are not available? And then you're weighing the cost versus what you're gaining from that cost. And I'm going to assume that Cortez has done that work, and that is why they continue to ask. I agree with you, Victor. We need to just put the questions out there and ask for those answers, and we may not get answers. And if we don't get answers, that's why CDE comes in. And when CDE comes in, you know, that's a decision.
CDE is gonna be asking, they want the answers to those questions too. Because one of the major factors for them is, if it's gonna, you know, crumble to BOCES and all those other districts that are in there because they can't afford to pay services, and therefore kids that have special needs aren't going to get services, that's going to be a problem for CDE. They're not going to say, yeah, let's do that.
Is there a way for a district to be let go without CDE approving it, or does CDE have to approve? They have to approve.
Yes.
Okay, so that's your umbrella there. That's your safeguard, is that CDE hopefully is paying attention and asking those questions to serve the needs of all of the children in those districts that belong, and not one district, correct?
Right, but the key is get the answers to
I like
the
those
critical questions.
Yep.
And yeah, you can narrow it down to the two categories
Those
you
are just
said.
the overview in my
But there's subcategories in that. So as you get those questions, there may be a few more questions that pop up as you look at those numbers.
So I think what might be helpful is maybe Rachel and I could start to work on kind of a a statement of expectation from San Juan BOCES on what we need and when we need it.
Yep.
So that, and so that we could get that to them right away, so it's very clear as to what we need. And then what will probably happen is the other school districts will probably just fall in line with that same thing. And just for a frame of reference, you know, there's a lot of really small school districts out there that are their own administrative unit. And when I was in Rangeley, the BOCES that served Rangeley and Meeker, that's the only two districts they served. So that was two small school districts that BOCES served. So
that's a good point.
So I think we could clear, I think CDE is not going to have much of a choice, but to release Cortez from the agreement, especially since Cortez will do a better job with their application.
And knowing that that might be coming, then should the focus then shift to being sure that we are supporting by statement of what we need, in black and white, the needs that we're asking to be met by remaining as part of a BOCES group. I mean, that really is, you know, we're asking for these services, on average, this many students, this is the, I mean, shouldn't that be put out there then?
Services should be the same as what there are.
Yeah, and we have those articulated.
Good.
So those are, that's data which Randy, as our sped director, could provide to us, you know, within an hour and a half.
Good, so the expectation is that. We should have
So the
that.
other thing I would add, Tom, is what you were talking about. Let's just say that they do, CDE does say, yeah, you guys can leave. Part of the discussion, part of what we should be asking for is, okay, let's say we take Cortez out of here. Let's talk about the plan based on the money and the services that we still need to have as in accordance with all the other districts that are still in there. So that's the other part is you've got to be able to look at that plan and say, how do we do that as we budget for next year? How's that going to happen? And what kind of services, how hard are we going to get hit with when it comes to services? Because we're talking about the closest district here, and then the next district, you're talking about Bayfield. Right? I mean, there's no other, oh, well, you have Duck Creek. But I mean, yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, what Victor would, I'm sure also share that one is IDA is federal as opposed to state. And so talking about an unfunded mandate, you know, that's goes to that point you just made earlier, that it's not adequately funded. So that pressure is going to be really ratcheted up, because right now BOCES already feels like their revenue coming in isn't sufficient to meet the demand. Now, if they lose a third of the population and a third of their revenue, let's say, they're going to really be feeling the pressure, right? And then they'll trickle down to us.
And another thing to think about, you know, I mean, as far as a school district, without any of the federal money, you know, from our general fund, we already pay for our ESS teachers. We already pay for the paras. You know, so basically for BOCES as our AU, they bring in the specialists. Exactly. I mean, that's
That's a legit question that you have to look at.
Our guys write most of the IEPs. I mean, they're in the meetings with us and they help guide the process, and at the end, they're the keepers of the IEP, but we're writing them. I mean, it's our guys doing it.
So it'd be interesting to know, you know, from a framework standpoint, here's what we're already doing, here's what we are receiving, here's the gap. What's the gap? And then in my mind, just my mind thinks more like a business. I want to know what is the cost and what's the cost of the gap.
Like the total cost we pay right now.
Correct.
Where's the gap and what are the services?
Correct.
Because they do, you're right. I mean, we have our special ed folks, we pay for them. They do the IEPs. But BOCES does do a lot of
other,
the whole monitoring, federal, state stuff that we're not as aware of.
right,
There's a lot of.
We don't even understand what that is.
All that reporting.
Right.
And it's also, things that are mandated by the federal government, like swap, child fine,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Those are the things I would
Right.
want to know.
The question is how does that affect us in our district? How many kids are on swap? How many kids are in child fine in our district?
Or how could it affect us, right?
Right, sure.
regardless if it's one, it's still required.
Right,
Sure.
it is,
Yeah.
it is. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that would be an interesting picture to paint, just in preparation for whatever happens this year.
Right.
It's just the board having, to your point, a much more robust understanding of all of the parts and pieces and inner workings of BOCES. I mean, you have it, Victor, because of your history, but in all of my time on the board, I've never taken that BOCES seat. And so I'm,
And Chrissy, like, I don't even know
Aware.
how much we pay from a district perspective to BOCES every year.
Do you want
It's
I
about, I think it's around 20,000 a quarter.
Do you want me to, I can bring up
That sounds
exactly
right
what
to
I,
me.
I can bring up exactly what
But
I
that's
sent
part
you.
of the information.
Yeah, budget
we'll-
plus the transfer of the IDEA money, which is about $375, I think.
Right, but what we, yeah.
So-
Yeah, see, yeah, the IDEA,
Yes.
I'd never seen.
Well,
so,
we just transferred
Right.
over, so that's, I think it's probably close to like 375
Yeah,
plus an additional 80.
it's not needy.
So we just need to know those numbers
Yeah.
before we get anything.
Yeah, this is a very
Because
complex
it's, yeah.
area.
well, and anytime I think about the administration of programs of this nature, this size, it's exactly that. It's the administration of the program. It's not necessarily just the therapist, just the, just those specialty educators. It's the administration of something that is very taxing on the educational system, that takes a lot of understanding and a lot of monitoring. Then you're talking about administration, admin type work, right? And our admin and our teachers are stretched
Right.
to the nth degree, so. Seems like a lot, but a lot doesn't go very far.
But we're early but
Yeah.
that's why,
That's why we're
we need to really be trying to get these answers and give it, that whole timeline, like Todd said, that whole, this is what we need, here's the timeline we need it, so that we can be more prepared as a district.
Which would be great, because like, yeah, the last couple of meetings, it's kind of like, so what? And they're all like, well, we don't know yet, and like, they just move on. It's like, let's talk about it.
I remember at the end of last year, you had brought to the board a descriptor also of, here's everything BOCES did through the year. Do you remember that document? And it was all laid out by month with all of the trainings, and that would be helpful to kind of like utilize that as a
Do they have that?
a framework of
Do they have
sorts.
that, right?
I mean, they have it for last year, I still
Well,
have it.
I just know what last year's was, yeah.
Do they have
Whether or
it
not
for
they're
this
gonna
year?
do it this year, who knows? We didn't get it till the end of the year, Mom.
Yeah,
You and
Royce has been
started
really
that year,
good at
but-
providing the school districts
say kind of
with
whatever.
information. And I just shared some information that Royce provided a couple weeks ago about who our team is, and then plus the additional services that San Juan BOCES provide. So I just shared that also.
Perfect. Additional services and trainings. Okay. All we can do is educate ourselves and try to be aware and advocate with our one voice, and you support it, which.
No, thank you, because I've been sitting there like, oh, I don't know which way to go. So yes, thank you.
Okay, so the next item up for discussion is the student voice, the student school board member, which was discussed at and passed at our last board meeting. We have decided as a board and passed policy related to the addition of a minimum of two student voices to the board table. These will be students from our district who apply, and there is a written application, and they will be sophomore through senior grade level. And the board will be, first and foremost, we're going to present to advisory classes just to encourage participation and help explain it. The two seats are non-voting seats. However, there is a level of governance and participation and student voice that these students will bring to the board table. We will present to the advisory classes to educate the kiddos, and we have spoken to the district staff about encouraging the applications and turning those in as well. The interviews for board members will be held on September 11th from 4 to 6 p.m. here in the boardroom, right after school. I think the applications, as they're written, are to be emailed to Rachel McWhirter or handed in person to Heather so she can get them to Rachel. Rachel is our board liaison for the students, although every single board member will have time with these students. And the process, as we're thinking about it, that makes sense, is that through our linkage exercises, each of us pair with a student, and the students can also run student linkage, and then a board member will pair with them. So each of us will have an opportunity to pair with a student on linkage and affect the experience that those kids have within our board governance process. The student members will be sworn in. Our intention is that they will be sworn in and seated at our October 21st school board meeting. In the future, we will do this at the end of the year, look for applicants. So next year, we will be able to seat students at the board table likely in August or September, likely August as well. And so a bit of a learning process. We've done a lot of homework. This is actually something that was brought forth by Pam Coppinger, former board president, who was not only an employee of the district for many years, but served as board president for many years. She started speaking about this years and years ago as it was brought up through CASB. And then we have continued to pull that thread and also discuss with our neighboring district in Durango. They were very helpful in sharing their experience, their policy, allowing us to talk to their students, and really kind of guiding us along the way. Certain it will not be perfect. Certain things will change over the next year to two, but we are excited to have kids from the district at the board table. If the kids are not chosen for a board seat, because unfortunately we don't have 20 seats if we get 20 applicants, we will be encouraging those students to participate in the district accountability committee. All of the students will receive hours of community service, obviously with their successful tenure, letters of recommendation, and just a wealth of experience that we hope to offer them in this process. So we're looking forward to seeing what we receive as applicants, really wanting to choose a diverse voice. Again, it depends on who we get, and see where it goes from there. So we're excited.
So, yeah, the only thing all that was great. The only thing is just that a question I have just from an operational perspective is, does this Thursday and next Monday work for the board to be in the advisory classrooms? I think there's about 7 advisory classes, so we'll do like 3 one day, 4 the other, that sort of thing. Those are the dates that were shared with the secondary principal, Mr. Hughes, and I just wanted to see if those were okay with the board.
So is it gonna take both those days or?
Both days. Well, and the board can decide, how, who's going and which days.
I'm not gonna be available for either of those days.
As I had shared last at the work session, I am gone starting tomorrow. Now I could zoom in potentially, if that was something that needed to be done, but I know Rachel has a strong
I'll be
voice.
here.
Victor has a strong voice because you've already done student voice. And so people know who you are.
So what dates for that?
This Thursday and next Monday,
To
So the 26th? No, sorry.
at 2:16 p.m. to 2:51 is when advisory is. And your contact person will be Mr. Hughes.
So the
at
20
secretary.
the 22nd, the 26th.
So maybe Thursday.
Greg, will that work at all?
I can do it.
Thank you
I
guys.
can do it. Anybody else want
distillation can.
I can do the 22nd, and then when do you say the
26th.
26th?
And Rachel, would you mind being the coordinator for the board on that?
Sure.
Yeah, and just reach out to Mr. Hughes. Perfect. Good, that's the
So-
only thing I was concerned about.
Okay, so have they, they have, no one's received applications yet,
No, that's when they would see the applications.
so we would give it out then.
Yeah, you would explain it,
Talk
yeah,
to
you would
it.
explain it, give
Okay.
it out.
Okay,
So Heather, could we have several copies of that application available for Thursday?
I'll email it to you, but
Yeah.
I don't, we don't now, but we will.
so, yeah, so we're gonna see how many classes on Thursday, Todd, about
3.
3 classes, and that amounts to about how many kids?
About 45.
Almost
45 applications, because everybody will get one.
and not.
We went over one.
Well, I was just gonna say, some,
Print out like 10 or 15 total, because we'll do a link, we'll have a link as well. Because even though they won't be able to use their phones right away.
but they have Chromebooks. They can fill it out on their Chromebook.
So,
Oh, because it's all, that's
it was
all.
all online.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a PDF. I mean, make it a fillable form.
So the only
They
thing
can
I
fill
would
it out.
say then is there a way, I mean, in these classes, do they have a smart or some sort of
Yeah.
projector where we can put it on so that they can see what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And what questions they have, because a lot of kids are visual, so
And
we
with
good to
that,
see it.
we would need to be in, we could go from like class to class, it wouldn't take us the whole 35 minutes.
Yeah, you're probably looking at like 3 10-minute presentations.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, 30 minutes, just to like split them. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's anything at all you need to do, Greg? 2 o'clock in the afternoon on workday.
They can probably do. I got the interview Thursday.
That'd be awesome.
I think the interviews as well will be, I would encourage all of us, as many of us as possible, to attend the interview on the 11th, on 11 from 4 to 6. That will be incredibly important. These students also, it should be noted, will attend the Colorado Association of School Board Conference with the board in December, which is a really fun event. They have a student strand, a student leadership piece, and we are also investigating bringing an additional couple of students along, 2 to 3 students along, in addition to those that are sitting in a student seat on the board. And so the CASB conference every December, first weekend of every December, becomes a real focal point and benefit for this group of students. Okay, any other questions? Good. Okay. We have done quite a bit of work around our objective report, strategic objective report 4A. The Memphis School District students demonstrate proficiency and positive longitudinal growth in reading and math. Tonight, it is our job to accept the report after much work and digging in on that report. Todd, do you think we need to do much else?
I think you've
Gone over it, and over
Yeah,
it, and over it.
I think the board's probably ready to go.
So I need a motion to accept it, please, as it stands for the work that has been done. This is strategic plan objective 4A.
I move that we accept strategic plan 4A as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Heather call the question.
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, we are moving on to opportunity for consent motion for our action items.
I move that we approve actions A through J as consent and leave K out because it's a resolution.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion at all? Questions? Heather call the question.
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hicks Brown.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And moving on to our capital reserve resolution, Mr. Hunter.
We adopt the following resolution according to Colorado Statute 2245-103 to update our fleet of the Macon School District RE6. The Board of Education authorizes a fiscal year 25 capital reserve expenditure of $173,500 to American Bus Sales LLC. The purchase of two 2019 Bluebird FE77 passenger buses.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Heather call the question.
Craig Benelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Excellent. Okay, there is no public in attendance, so there is no public participation. I did want to just point out that in September, we will be looking at reviewing and discussing our objective 3C from our strategic plan. We will have some policy work as well. We are looking at policy on a month-to-month basis, as is our responsibility. We are going to be looking at our fiscal year 24-25 district goals and the adoption of such. Mr. Cordray, along with his administration, is busy getting feedback from the district as a whole after the initial presentation at a professional development day. And so we did push that to September in order to give staff adequate time to give their feedback. We will also be choosing our student voice seats, and that will be announced on September 16th. They are slated to actually be seated at the table in October. And just a reminder again that September 11th are those interviews. Our next regular meeting date is September 16th at 6 p.m. here in room 223. Any other future business anybody have?
It's been brought up to me to possibly look over our calendar one more time as opposed to spring break. Our dates do not match with our concurrent enrollment dates.
Which count?
The
Academic
district academic calendar. Apparently spring break is not the same as Fort Lewis or PCC. And so we're gonna have students who,
I don't think it ever has been, has it?
We've tried. Yeah.
And every year.
okay, I just wasn't sure.
Does not make
It's been brought up a few times. I've got a lot of
Concurrent enrollment.
current enrollment kids that are wondering.
Yeah, I know that that's been discussed.
I'll get that information as to when theirs is, when ours is, and then what students that.
I say how many students and where we're at. Perfect, thank you.
I'll get that to you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Just if we can do the work session, the audit possibly for, well, I think it
Yes.
will be ready. So if you could just give Chris a little time.
On
On the
There's, so we have two.
16th.
This, I was gonna say, which one?
The
Okay,
16th, before the
16th.
board meeting, yeah,
So audit presentation.
if you can meet them.
Excellent. Okay, well, with that final request, it is 7:35 and I call this meeting adjourned.